1.
This meeting is being recorded.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Career Spotlight on careers in entrepreneurship and being a business owner. My name is Lisa Kuntz-Samanuk. I am the Chinook School Division Industry Education Program Facilitator, and on behalf of the Regina Industry Education Council, we are pleased to be able to have Chris Martens here with us today to share his experiences with us. Perhaps you are wondering whether entrepreneurship and business ownership might be for you. The Career Spotlight today will be just for you as we listen to Chris Martens share his journeys in the worlds of broadcasting, health and wellness, and business ownership. Before we begin our spotlight today, I would remind students to take a moment following the presentation to complete the brief student survey and be entered into a draw for $50. Your feedback is important in helping us to arrange future spotlights. We will also have some time at the end of the presentation today for you to ask any questions, or you may contact Chris directly. Thank you. For those of you just joining us, we are pleased to have Chris Martens here with us today. Chris was born and raised in Swift Current, Saskatchewan. With a passion for a multitude of things, Chris attended post-secondary education to further a career in broadcasting. After a long-standing tenure in the radio industry, dabbling in a few things here and there, Chris found himself diving deep into something that was truly meaningful to him, health and wellness. As a part owner in Supplement King, he deals directly one-on-one with clients that are looking to improve their own health and wellness. In addition, Chris also has a separate voiceover business that further utilizes his broadcasting passion. Please join me in welcoming Chris here today with us. Take it away, Chris.
Well, thank you very much, Lisa, and thank you to everyone who's joining today. I'd like to first give a big thank you to the Regina District Industry Education Council and the Chinook School Division for having me a part of this today. It's very exciting to be able to chit-chat a little bit about business ownership and entrepreneurship and all the ins and outs and ups and downs that kind of come along with it. So I'm excited to share a little bit about my story. And yeah, hopefully you get some good information out of it, whether you take it along with you or leave it behind. We'll see what we can come up with. So as mentioned, my name is Chris Martens. I am one of the co-owners of Supplement King here in Swift Current and CMR, which is Chris Martens Recordings, which is my voiceover business. So at least it did kind of touch a little bit about myself and about me. So I'd like to just continue that as well. Just to explain a little bit about myself. Now, as mentioned, I am co-owner and manager of Supplement King here in Swift Current, Saskatchewan. And the CMR, Chris Martens Recordings, I am, of course, the owner and operator of that. As mentioned, I was born and raised here in Swift Current. I went to school here until graduation, at which point I pursued post-secondary education in radio and television broadcasting at WABC, or Western Academy of Broadcasting College in Saskatoon. After completing college, I worked on and off in the radio industry for the following 15 years. Now, when I say on and off, I dabbled in a few other things. I tried a little bit in the financial world. I tried a portion of that for a number of years, and a few other ventures in there as well too. Before I really kind of truly found a true passion of mine for health and wellness. I mean, that coupled along with my own health, making sure that I, can maintain a long and healthy life and lifestyle. And that ended up resulting in the opening of Supplement King in Swift Current in December of 2018. It was a little bit of a process to get the store itself opened as we initially approached the Supplement King head office back in March and April of 2018. So then it kind of became, once we approached them, they were on board. So then it was a matter of finding a location. And finding a location, of course, that's, I'll talk about that a little bit later on in the presentation here, but location's important. So between going through the location side of things, getting your financing in place, making sure that all goes through, doing interview process, hiring staff, stocking your shelves, this, that, and the other thing. After some time, we were finally ready to open the store on December 15th of 2018. And we've been open ever since. Now on the CMR side, so Chris Martens Recordings end of things, that was started back in January of this year, 2022. The voiceover side of things has always been a long-term want and dream. Ever since I was probably in high school. Once I attended broadcasting college back in 2004, Obviously, radio was the pursuit initially, but voiceover had always been something that I'd wanted to do. You watch a cartoon or you hear a commercial read on on TV and you think, man, I want to do that. I want to be that guy. So it's always been something that I'd thought about, but never something that had ever the opportunity to move forward and approach it never really came up until this past year. So I was excited to get that started in January of this year. Outside of the business venture side of things, I'm married to my wife, Amanda. We have 3 beautiful girls that keeps me very active and busy. So our household has a lot going on. So being a business owner and entrepreneur on top of everything else definitely keeps you occupied and moving in that sense. Now, when you think about education side of things, before we jump into the supplement world, let's just have a quick brief talk about the voiceover side of things. As mentioned, I went to broadcasting college in 2004. I guess it would be 2003 into 2004, graduating. I received my diploma in radio and television broadcasting, at which point then you jump into your career in the radio side. So as mentioned, 15 years dabbling in and out here and there. Now with the voiceover industry, I still do utilize a lot of the tips and tricks and education that I received and picked up in my college days back in 2004. A lot of that stuff comes and sticks with you. It's like riding a bike. You keep on practicing, and once you learn, you never forget. So you learn a lot of the items that I took from college, and I make sure that I continue to utilize them in a variety of facets through the voiceover industry. But I also took additional training. I worked along with a voice coach for about 4 months through a variety of different sessions as well too, because being able to talk is one thing, and that's great. But you have to know how to use your voice. You have to know how to, to sell it, to pitch it, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a lot of little things that you may think that you pick up and learn that you didn't necessarily know correctly. So taking the external training on the voiceover side of things paid off, in dividends and for knowledge-wise. It gives you a really good base to move forward with. Now, on the supplement and business owner side of things, in my particular business, Supplement King, education within the supplement industry is an ever-changing beast. You have to have an understanding of the ingredients in each and every product that you sell, because you are selling consumers something that they're eating and ingesting. So ensuring that what you are selling is safe for them is of the utmost importance. And that becomes paramount because of the variety of clients and clientele that you'll have coming in the store. Now, within Canada, the supplement industry is very heavily regulated. There is a lot of American brands that we carry in Canada, but those American brands, in some cases, have to go through a totally and completely different formula change in order to actually have their products approved in Canada, because it's a lot stricter north of the border here on that end of things. So there's very little fear or concern of any sort of banned ingredients that you may have in the products that you sell. Still, having that knowledge is paramount, because anyone you come across has a different reason for coming into your store, different reason for wanting certain items and certain products and dietary needs and requirements. Let's take a quick look at a protein as an example. You can have a milk-based protein, you can have a vegan-based protein, you can have an animal-based protein, and you'll have different individuals coming in that will have different dietary restrictions and requirements that will have them needing one thing over the other. There's no cookie cutter picturesque example of this is the same for everyone and everyone can take it. So that's why knowledge is so important within this particular industry. And a lot of what it is doing a lot of research on your own as well too. Reading about ingredients, reading about what this particular product can do to certain individuals, how weight differences can play a part in different volumes of ingredients and whatnot. So there's a lot of very important information that's required in order to have a business such as this. There are pursuits, of course, that you can take that can greater enhance your ability to sell products. There's many a nutrition course out there for many reputable companies and schools that you can take to help further your own education, which in turn can also help further your own entrepreneurship on that side by having that nutritional, the potential to be a nutrition coach. They're not a necessity in order to run said business or open the business, but they certainly can help make a difference down the road. As far as taking a look at any kind of duties and whatnot that you would have, as an owner and a manager within the store here, the duties do kind of overlap each other. If we're strictly speaking on the entrepreneurship side, being ownership, my duties would include overseeing the entirety of the business. I mean, as a business owner, it's your baby. So, I mean, you've got to take a look at everything, from inventory numbers, ensuring that what you have in stock is accurate to what you have listed, on a website, what to order and the proper volume of things to order, staffing, making sure that you're scheduling staff, taking into account potential time off, hours, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot involved on that end, and down to paying the bills. I mean, it's the simple side, but it's the necessity. Now, my co-owner, Jim, does look after the banking side of things for the store here. So I have less of an involvement on that end. Now, if he, as an example, were not in the picture, you would be looking at an accountant. That would likely be a necessity in order to take a look at that, because there's a lot of additional work on that end of things outside of my own regular duties. So, your banking side isn't as simple as, paying your power bill and away you go. You've got to deal a lot with your income tax, paying PST on products, ensuring that, all your vendors and whatnot that you're ordering product from are being paid on time, ordering within reason. There's a lot of back end things that you don't see on the pretty end of things when you walk into a store. And my co-owner Jim does a lot of that, so I give him a lot of credit on that front. Now, we've been open here for 3 years, and despite essentially 1.5 to 2 years of that being COVID-related shutdowns and business slowdowns, balancing your monthly budget for ordering products that fits within what you hope to make is very important. And that's super, super key when it comes to the business ownership side. Because trust me, if I had free reign, I would fill the shelves front to back, left to right, to make it look just as colorful and pretty as you can when you walk into the store, and there's not an empty hole in the wall anywhere. But that's not necessarily a reality if business is challenging. It's easy to overstock your shelves, and just take an arbitrary number as an example, order $30K in product, so $30,000 in product. But when you're only pulling in $35,000 a month, $10,000 of that goes to payroll, plus there's other expenses, whether it's, your bills, your rent, government taxes and whatnot. Suddenly that $30,000 of product that you ordered, now you're over budget by, $12,000, $13,000, $14,000 that you now have to try to figure out, how am I going to pay this and when am I going to pay this? So it takes a lot of focus that has to be put on balancing stocking shelves, spending reasonably, and spending within your means. And that's one of the probably most important parts that isn't necessarily the pretty side of business ownership, is balancing the books and balancing the budget. Because you want to make sure that at the end of the month, you maybe won't make a profit, which, in new business ownership is not likely at all. But the end game is to make sure that you're able to clear what you're making and grow the business so that down the road, you have that ability to make that profit that you hope for. Now, when it comes to like equipment that you would use, or, kind of spaces that you work in, when we take a look at the Supplement King side of things, location is one of the biggest number one things that you can think of, especially in the retail industry. Location is absolutely one of the most important things. Finding that right place for your business. I'll take ours as an example. Supplement King as a company had certain parameters in which we had to meet in order to find a good retail space. Moment here. So we had to look at a number of different locations in order to really find that right fit and that right location that would work for us. We had looked at about 2 or 3 different ones. Now, within our community, there wasn't a lot of open, sizable retail space that was going to work for what we required. We did find a couple, 3 different locations, 2 of which came down to the ones that we were looking at. And we were fortunate enough to obtain the location that we do now in downtown Swift Current. So the downtown core, essentially. Our other option was a location that was out closer towards the end of the city on the south side on the highway, or on the north side on the highway. Good location, but the issue with it is there's no walk-in traffic. It's a drive-to location. So during COVID, where there were shutdowns and we were open for a while, and for a while, the only traffic we were getting, was some walk-in traffic. A location where you eliminate that entirely, if we were there, we would not be open today. And that's where the hard part about the ownership side of things is. We're great for the location that we have, but it's paramount that when you are looking and when you are trying to find that space for your business, location, you find the one that makes the most sense and you can see fit. It doesn't necessarily have to be the prettiest, the largest, the best looking space. If it's a space that you can make work and it's in a more prominent location than the other one, that's the one that should be focused on, because that's where you're going to see your benefit. At least in our situation, it was. Now, outside of the location side, the equipment that we utilize here, we are very fortunate that our head office, as we are a franchise with Supplement King, everyone is an individual owner, but it is a franchise that we do have here. They have, put the time into making a good quality system that we use for literally everything that we go, from sales history, individual customer accounts, inventory numbers, purchase receipts, tax information, et cetera, et cetera. It's very much an in-depth one-stop shop for all of your ownership requirements. So we're very fortunate on that side that we do have that, being that they are a franchise and have put the money in order to develop this, which of course we do. It is something that is incorporated in our monthly costs, paying to have this program that we can actually utilize to keep our system and our business up and running that way. Now, on the other end of things, so the voiceover business side, it's an interesting business because you don't necessarily have a set location. Now, you certainly, in my sense, I do have a home location. So, I mean, we have, what you can see right behind the microphone would be something called sound dampening panels. And those are a necessity so you don't have reverberation when you're reading, when you're talking, you don't have echoes and sound. You want to have your voice in your microphone the only thing you hear. So that's where having those panels and whatnot at a home studio can be beneficial. But the reality is, with a voiceover artist, you can do your work from anywhere. And the name of the game is basically have Mike will travel. You can take your stuff and you can go wherever you want to. You have the ability to work anywhere and everywhere because you bring your mic, as long as you got your microphone and a laptop or something to record with, and some sound dampening panel, whatever you might need in order to kind of kill that background noise. You can take your stuff along with you. That being said, too, you have to ensure that the products and the equipment that you're using is worth it. Heading down to, your local Radio Shack. Okay, I'm dating myself there. Here, like your Best Buy or something, and just grabbing the first microphone you see that was, the most cost-effective and cheapest one, isn't necessarily going to get you the sound that you are looking for and require. So you have to do your research into those high quality microphones for what your purpose is. Do you want it just to do a podcast? Do you want it to do voiceover recording? Do you want to record, stuff for a radio broadcast show? Like, there's a whole variety of different utilizations for a microphone. And finding one that fits your budget, but also is good enough quality that you can use in your future work is very, very important. This line of work is something you want to make sure, you're going out on your own for it. So you want to find success, you got to invest in it. That's the biggest thing. You're going to get out of whatever business you're doing, whatever you put into it. So if you're creating your own startup company, it is costly. There's no question about it, because starting your business and the equipment that you're using, we'll use the voiceover one as an example. You maybe haven't made a penny yet. I mean, my own earnings throughout this have paled in comparison to the cost that I have put forth in order to get the equipment and the programs and whatnot that I have. But I would be further behind if I decided to just not spend the money on good quality equipment and just go gung-ho without making the effort on the outside of things. If you want to see something come back from it, you've got to be able to put forth your efforts and invest in it to see that positivity. And if you're passionate about something, if you're truly passionate about it, you can make it work down the road and recoup your costs. That's the biggest thing. Starting a startup or starting a new business is scary. 100% it is. But is it worth it if you're passionate about it? In every way, shape, or form. As the old saying goes, you got to spend money to make money, but if you're going to invest in what you're going to do and you're passionate about it, it comes back to you. It takes time though, and it takes a lot of hard work, and that's the important part about all of it. So when you talk about business ownership, this picture here is a picture of my storefront. So this is what essentially the front of my store looks like down here in Swift Current. Business ownership can be very, very rewarding as you see your business grow. I mean, there's no better feeling than watching something that you put all of your time in, all of your effort in. You maybe put your financial side of things into it as well too. Something truly you're passionate about. Seeing something grow, seeing customers return, multiple times, building that trustworthy customer base where now your customers are not just coming in because you have a product that they like, but they're coming in because they want to see you for help or you for advice. Once you build that trust with your customer base and within the community about the business that you run, it's an incredibly rewarding feeling. There's no level of time that you can put a number on that it takes to achieve this. I'm not going to tell you after 2 months, all of a sudden things are hunky-dory and everything's good to go. It takes a long time. I'm 3.5 years into the business and we're still working on growth and still working on seeing how we can make it work the best way possible. But we have, a good customer base. And like I said, it's such a rewarding experience knowing that you are working in an industry that some people don't necessarily rely on, but have trust in you that what you are selling to them or what you are telling them can help and can work is something that they feel is working for them and that is helping them. It's an extremely positive experience and a super rewarding one at that, being able to have that feeling. And it goes without saying, if you want to achieve that, you got to put more into it. And the more you put into it, the more you get out of it. Excuse me. Now, the rewards on the business side of things are fantastic. Absolutely. But there's definitely challenges involved with it too. And stress and business ownership, they could basically be side by side in the dictionary. It just kind of comes with the territory, but it's finding a way to manage those things. The challenges of business ownership can most certainly be just as plentiful as the rewards, but nobody necessarily goes into owning their own business because they think it's going to be easy. If you think that business ownership and entrepreneurship is easy, you will not be getting into it, in my own personal experience, for the right reasons, or you won't get out of it what you think you should be getting back. Business ownership is hard. Entrepreneurship is hard, and it takes a lot of effort and it takes a lot of work. You got to put in the time, you got to put in the effort, and it doesn't end. There isn't a point where all of a sudden you're like, great, effort off. You're always going to be putting in that passion and that effort to make sure that you're getting the most out of it that you can. Some of the many challenges that you can face include, a downturn in business. Business and in the retail sector, it has ebbs and flows. You'll have 1 month where you're going up, 1 month where you're going down. Your next year, that same month, you could be going down. Following month, you're going up. There really isn't a rhyme and reason where you can take a look back in your history at, let's take a look at January of 2019. How did we do? Okay, January 2022 should be exactly the same. Everything's different. So you really have to be able to adapt to that side of things. Cost increases to product. In my industry right now, COVID caused multiple issues. It did with many, many, many businesses as well too, but in mine in particular, COVID caused extreme challenges because there's a lot of different products and raw materials that have now become extremely difficult to obtain and manufacture. So cost on products have gone up multiple times within the last 6, 8 to 10 months. And there's nothing we can do about that because it's a worldwide thing. It's not just our particular company that suddenly is like, you know what, we got to raise costs on this. It's worldwide. So you have to now take that into account, because not only is the retail side, you're reselling it at a higher cost. I'm now paying more for it as well too. So all those monies need to be taken into account, because you may make, using last year as a comparison, if you made $30,000 1 month, this month you made $30,000, but also this month you've now also paid 180% more for the inventory you're taking in. You made less, despite your numbers looking the same. You didn't intake as much. So there's a lot of that has to be taken into account as well. Maintaining relevance in the marketplace in the slow times is a big one too. No matter what, you want your store to be top of mind. You want your business to be top of mind when consumers need you first. And any advertiser or anybody that works in the advertising industry is going to tell you the exact same thing over and over and over again. Consistency is key. Making sure that you are being consistent. You are getting your name out there. Now that is a challenge when business is slow. Advertising costs money for sure. You can't cut it off entirely, because if you eliminate your advertising, nobody knows about you. Business can't grow if nobody knows about you. So you have to find ways to maintain that relevancy in your marketplace in slow times, whether that's utilizing social media, whether it's using, digital billboards or, local radio or television advertising, whatever that might be. You have to find the cost-effective way to maintain consistency and maintain relevance in the industry. You very well could have an industry that you are competing with 7 other people in your same area. How do you stand out above those 7? So that takes a lot of additional work to look at how to maintain that relevance in slow times in your marketplace. And balancing your budget, as I mentioned, like you said, this year you could make 30K this month, and the previous year you did the same, but because your costs went up by 180%, you didn't make as much. So how do you balance your budget for next month, knowing that is still going to be the same, but you want to try to work it so you can make that profit and still maintain, your store shelves, as an example. Those are little things that come no matter what, things that will come your way on the business ownership side. And then there's the things that nobody can plan for. A worldwide pandemic. Nobody can plan for that. There's not a business owner that could sit down and say, yep, saw it coming, was all ready. Because you just can't. You can't plan for something like that. And it took a massive hit on small businesses and the small business community, and mine in particular as well too. We most definitely suffered. We had to close for a period. We were allowed to reopen because our business was considered essential because we sell majority food product. Now, with that being said, on one side of the coin, you think, well, you're essential, you're open, great, people are coming to you. But we're not Walmart. We don't have groceries necessarily. We have very important and valuable products that people can take, but we don't have that same essential mentality as a grocery store would do. So despite us being allowed to be open, our traffic was down 80%. And that maintained for many, many months because we just didn't have those traffic coming back in because, as mentioned, the pandemic was ongoing and was continuously fluctuating. So it made for some extreme challenges. So the only thing you can do is try to figure out how to adapt. So, in our instance, we were lucky enough to have an online presence and an online store that people could go to. Now, we had an uptick in that, which was great. It didn't make anything near what we normally would do if we were open to the public, but it certainly did. It did allow us to at least have some resale and at least make some sales within our store. In many cases, adapting to survive essentially means no paycheck. And that's a scary thing to talk about, a scary thing to say, but if you're going into your business, you're going into business for yourself, you have to prepare yourself that, hey, potentially I might not get paid. And it might not just be a 1 week thing. It could be for a month or 2 months or 3 months, depending on how things are going. Running through a pandemic as we just have and continue to some degree, there's still a lot of shaky and scary times to ensure, am I taking this paycheck? Because your number one when it comes to that side of things is A, how can my business survive? And B, I got to pay my staff. You might be the owner and you might want to make that money, but if you don't have staff, you don't have a business in this particular industry itself. You need staff. So they come first and you have to make sure that they are getting paid so you can maintain happy, positive staff and move the business forward. So you have to be okay with that. And it's a hard thing to accept, but when you understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, you recognize the greater good in that sense. And as long as you can be okay with pushing through that, there's better times ahead. So when you take a look at the salary side of things, salary and benefits, salary isn't entirely dependent on your own business success. You will most definitely put far more into your own business than you will get out of it at the start, because it's just the nature of the beast. But doing something that you're passionate for makes it worth the risk to get to the end reward. If you can see your business growing and see it continue to, have that uptick. And like I said, there's ebbs and flows when it comes to the business end of things. But seeing growth and seeing customers return, seeing people positive, it makes it all worth it as you continue to push along and find new ways to make your business relevant in the area that you are. The benefits of working for your own business is you're the boss. I mean, there's no better way to put it. You are the boss. It's a blessing and a curse, because if you're not a self-motivated person, it can be extremely hard reality knowing that the success of your business is solely dependent on what you put into it. If you're someone that's like, what, I only want to work a 9 to 5. I don't want to do anything else. I don't want to work beyond that. I don't want to think beyond that. Business ownership is going to be tough because it's always on your mind. I'll talk about that in just a minute here. And the one thing that's really important too that should really be talked about more and more and more in school, in my personal opinion, is the financial end of things and finances. If you're looking at any kind of retirement plan or pension plan, that comes on your own shoulders to start one. And if you're a high school student and you're 16 years old, you're probably thinking, retirement? It's a long ways away. Trust me, it comes quicker than you think, and starting something ahead of time puts you on the right track right off the bat. In business ownership, unless you're working for, a corporation as an employee, the entrepreneurship side of thing, you don't necessarily have those same benefits as maybe your corporate pension plans that regular employees in business might. So if you want to prepare for your retirement down the road, you've got to be diligent on your own, making sure that you're setting all those things up. As a business owner, you can take holidays anytime you want to. That comes with a little asterisk on there as well. As mentioned, your business's success is completely dependent on what you put into it. So if you want to give yourself an 8-week holiday a year, go right ahead. You just may not see the benefits that you could if you put your nose down to the grindstone and work all the way through. Now, that being said, of course, it is a tricky balance because everyone can experience burnout. There's no question about that. So you have to find that balance that works for you and what your business needs. When it comes to work hours, the correct answer is 24 hours a day. Now, that doesn't mean that you are in a store location, in a shop, all hours of the day. But there's emails you're responding to. There's, meeting with potential advertising agencies. There's, business partnership opportunities, social media channels that you have to manage, which quite frankly, social media actively on a consistent basis is a full-time job in its own. But it's very beneficial if you can maintain consistency with it, but it's a tough one. There's customer questions that can come at any and all times during the day. When you're not in your store or your studio or your workspace, you're still thinking about your business. So when it comes, it's kind of a round a clock thing. There may be only a brief period in which you are actually physically in a store, but there is a lot of outside times in which you're continuously thinking about, preparing yourself to be active at your business at all times is what you need to be ready for. Because there's always something that will come up, always something you'll think of that you think, hey, maybe this can work for my business. I got to make sure I contact so-and-so tomorrow or look into doing this the next day. It's a constant thing where you're always thinking of what to do next. And that's important to know because the business ownership side and entrepreneurship, it's great being your own boss. It's wonderful being in charge of your future and your destiny, but you're always thinking about it. And you're always making sure that it's top of mind because at any given time, you can come up with an idea or something that you need to work towards in order to see it growth. Now, when it comes to supports and whatnot, in the retail sector, so the Supplement King world, there's a great support system at the head office. Should you ever need help with any, variety of managerial requirements, people to bounce ideas off of, support system to kind of help with advice, aid on how to help grow your business. The team at our head office is always very, very willing to look for ways to help you grow, help expand the name. They've built a wealth of knowledge and they have an excellent education and digital documentation folders and whatnot for you to access to make things much, much easier to work along with. So, if a franchise opportunity as an ownership is something that comes about you, in a lot of cases, not all, but in a lot of cases, they have systems in place and set up already to help you succeed as best you can. Now, on the voiceover side of things, it's a little bit more tricky because that's simply strictly and pure entrepreneurship there. You don't have the same head office or support system. It is an independently owned business and you're running one on your own, just like a lot of different entrepreneurial business ideas are. So to seek help or to seek advice, you really need to, scour the internet is one of the best places to look for accurate information. And that's very, very important because you can look up one article on one particular topic and find 15 different things to read, all with little difference and varying information. So you have to try to filter yourself through the weeds to find the best information. Making acquaintances within the industry that you can go to if you need help is very, very important as well too. Especially in independent industry, if you can make acquaintances, whether it's with vendors or people that you deal with, other people that are in the same industry as you are, they can be a wealth of knowledge you never knew you needed, but can become invaluable to you as you are continue to grow your business. In a lot of cases, though, outside of like some free articles and whatnot online, aids like that will likely cost you money because you. Take an example, you are talking to experts or potential experts in the field you are in, who they themselves are independent contractors running their own business too. So you have to really take an account of that end of things as well. Looking at the opportunity side of things, business ownership isn't necessarily the be all end all of where you are in your career in your field. Depending on what you're looking for, it can certainly lead to greater success. You may find yourself building quality, successful relationships with other business people that you deal with on a regular basis, whether it's, people that you order product from, or it's other business owners that you're, friendly or familiar with, that you talk to, that you deal with as well on a regular basis. Opportunity can come from anywhere. Being that business owner and entrepreneur doesn't mean that path you chose is now your final destination. I myself have changed careers multiple times before finding one that I felt fit me. Excuse me, I'm 38 years old. When I was in high school, I picked my career. This is what I'm doing. This is where I'm at. I'm not in that field anymore. I went to school for it. I worked in it for 15 years. And like I said, I dabbled in a variety of different things until I finally found something that I really sunk my teeth into. So what you necessarily decide in high school, this is what I'm doing, it very well could be what works for you, and that's great. But it doesn't necessarily mean that is your final destination. There's lots of opportunity around you, especially in the business world that you're a part of, or outside of it, that you have built connections with. Relationships within any industry you are in can never be stressed enough about the importance. Building great relationships for those that you do business with in your particular industry or business is how opportunities come about. The harder you work to organically grow your relationship with those around you, the better the chances are that you can, move up even within your own industry and others surrounding it. At Supplement King, we deal with a variety of different vendors and different people that we're ordering products from, a lot of which at this point now I talk to on a first name basis. And we exchange text messages, we're jovial with each other, but it's connections, and it's building those connections that becomes paramount and important to helping you succeed in your industry moving forward. And one very, very important thing to remember, you don't have to pick what you're doing with your life early on. If you do, and you very well find something, again, it's perfect. But never feel bad if what you're doing right now isn't your true passion, because your passion comes, it could come later on in life. It could come when you're 50. There's no given, this is what you're doing, this is what you have to do. You follow what you want to do. And that's when you're going to find, at least when you put the most effort in my instance anyway. Trying to balance the work-life thing as a business and entrepreneurship is a huge necessity too. Now, it doesn't mean that you can just cut things off at 5 p.m., turn it all off. As that owner, you're always thinking about your business. Like it's constantly on my mind. I go home, and a lot of times, me and my wife, when we're having our conversations later on at night, what are we talking about? Work. She's a business owner as well too. So we have a lot of, back and forth feedback with each other talking about work. That doesn't mean that, we don't have other things to talk about, but as a business owner, it's always on your mind. You're thinking about your next step, your next order, your next growth plan. If you're not putting all the effort you can to ensure your business can be a success, you won't get everything out of you want to. You still can have a life. You can enjoy time with friends and family, but the work side is always there, even during those times. It's just trying to find the best way for you to balance everything together. As mentioned, I have a wife, I have 3 kids, I have multiple jobs. I still find time to enjoy life with them, and also incorporating bits and pieces of work that's kind of integrated into all of it. The biggest thing that I can say when it comes to entrepreneurship and business ownership, it means effort. I've discussed being an entrepreneur and business ownership is amazing, but it takes time, and it takes a lot of effort, and it takes investment of you. It doesn't happen overnight. Overnight success. It's a super duper rare thing if it is a thing, but it really isn't, especially when you're in a smaller community. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of work. If you want to earn the trust of the people around you, you got to do the work, and you got to put the work in. Being passionate about something is the best way to harness that energy into a business venture. You have to prepare yourself to make it successful, whether that is owning a retail chain store because you believe in what it's all about, or going out on your own and being independent entrepreneur in the field that you choose. You get out of it what you put into it. And then with all that being said, there's no discouragement about being a business ownership or an entrepreneur. It is incredibly rewarding to see something that you have done, something you have built, a customer that you've helped in a positive manner. Seeing those kind of things, anything positive coming out of what you're putting into it gives you a sense of satisfaction you can't get when you're not the boss. I've had great successes when I worked in the broadcast industry or in sales, as an example. I felt really good about some things that I've done for clients, but it's a different feeling when your name is essentially tied to the product that you are selling or that you have. When you have done it, it gives you a totally different sense of satisfaction and positivity. And that experience itself is worth all of the effort and the energy that you can put into it. And yeah, that's pretty much, in a nutshell, a lot of the presentation for myself. Hopefully you got something out of it. I'm happy to take any questions if there is any questions from anybody. If I could say anything in regards to entrepreneurship and business ownership, if you're thinking about it, if it's your passion, do it. It's hard. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of work, but it's so very rewarding in ways that can't necessarily be described in a Zoom call. So I promise you, it's worth every minute of it.
Thanks, Chris. This is Lisa. My first question for you, I've got a number of them actually, but my first one, I noticed that your path to entrepreneurship was based on your passion for health and wellness. And others may get into it because they have a background in accounting, or they might be that person who's an inventor, want to invent something, or they might get into it from another background. What led you to consider being an entrepreneur? Like, health and wellness was your passion, and then you thought, oh, I'm going to be a business owner?
So it's a good question, Lisa. So, I mean, the gym or the health and wellness side of things really started for me back when I lived in Peace River, Alberta, which would have been, I want to say, about 18 years ago, 17, 18 years ago. It was the first time that I'd ever gone to a gym. And it was something that I kind of really, it became a necessity for me. It helped my mental health. Going to the gym, it made me physically feel better as well too. I didn't have a goal in mind to become the next Arnold Schwarzenegger and be a huge bodybuilder. All I wanted to do was maintain health and stay healthy. And then I will give the credit to my co-owner of the business, Jim. We were in the car one day driving to Regina for a health appointment for myself. And he had mentioned the thought of me. He's like, have you ever thought about opening a supplement store? And I was already a user of a variety of different supplements, to much benefit that I found. I got great benefit from them. They helped me, so I knew that they could help others. And when he approached me with the thought, I'd said it. It wasn't something that I had necessarily thought of before, but the more I thought of it, the more interest I had in it. So I give the credit to my business partner, Jim, actually, for approaching me with the thought. And it was something that we decided, this is a great idea. Let's run with it. And here we are.
Okay. So what made you then decide to pick Supplement King as a franchise to be involved in? And are there guidelines to follow when being a franchise owner?
Yeah, so Supplement King as a company, we were both kind of mulling, because there's a variety of different supplement companies in Canada that you can, kind of work and franchise along with. And neither one of us thought going the independent route would work, because, your costs are very, very high. It's very different. There's a lot of startups that you don't necessarily, they're very, very different. I had shopped at a Supplement King prior to in Moose Jaw, actually, and said, I love the store. I love the personalities and the people that are there. I think this is a great opportunity for us. So we approached them, and they were very excited to come into the space. They had been wanted to be in this area for a long time, and it worked out well for both of us. Now, as far, sorry, what was the second part of your question, Lisa?
Are there guidelines to follow being a franchise owner?
There certainly are. Like you do have your guidelines, and I mean, you're as a franchise owner, of course, you do sign that franchise agreement and go through the list of what you can and can't do. There are certain, every owner is independent in their own, in the sense, like you have guidelines of things that you can follow as far as products that you carry, how you present yourself on social media. Of course, that's very, very important, because I mean, just as you would if you owned your own business, you want to be professional, and you want to make sure that you're not doing something to hurt your business or the franchise business itself. So you do have guidelines to follow, but the biggest difference is we're not necessarily required to order the identical things that each other franchise location is required to order. So what works in Swift Current, Saskatchewan, as an example, doesn't necessarily work in St. John's, Newfoundland. So we don't have to order the same thing they do. We can order what works in our area and what works for our customer base. So it's you do have guidelines, but it is a little bit more free as far as how you can design your store in the location you are in.
Okay, thanks. I have one last question, then I'll turn it over to others. I'm not sure if that you knew that, but entrepreneurship classes are available in high school now. They weren't when you were in high school or when I was in high school, but they are as a PAA optional credit for students. What advice would you give to students who might have an interest in becoming an entrepreneur in the future?
Do your research is number one. I would say, like, I'll specifically use my voiceover industry as an example. I mentioned it's something that I'd always been interested in when I started in radio, and that was in 2004. Well, here we are 18 years later, and I started it. So it doesn't come quick, but do your research on it. Make sure that you're ready. Make sure that, if you're going to do it, go all in. That's the best way that I can put it. If you want to make a go of something and you want to make the entrepreneurial side of things your end game, go all in. Don't half it, because going half it you won't get out of it you'll get out of it what you're putting in, which will be half of what you expect to get out of it. So put both feet in, run for it. And I mean, it can be scary. I won't pretend that it's not. It certainly can be scary, but pushing to do something you're passionate about is the greatest feeling in the world when you get that first success, and it drives you to get that next one. So I would say, go all in, make sure you do your research before you do. And when it's time, don't stall, go for it.
Yeah. Yeah, you've certainly shared there's a lot of things for students to consider in entrepreneurship. It's not like I have an idea to invent something, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, or I want to sell something. There's a lot of things to consider, but it is an amazing career as long as you consider, take things to consider and have supports along the way. Renette or Gord, do you have any questions?
No, actually, thanks so much, Chris. That was awesome. Boy, you've given students lots to think about and to consider, pursuing this, this type of career. So no, thank you very much. You've answered all our questions. Awesome.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, my name's Evan. I have a question. I watch a lot of Shark Tank. I'm wondering, what's your advice on taking investors? What's your advice on taking investors in your business?
So I guess when it comes on that end of things, I wouldn't have as much experience on that. But I mean, the biggest thing on the Shark Tank side of things, it's great to get that capital that individuals may need in order to, move to that next level. But essentially everything I said just previously really would apply to that, is making sure that you're doing your research.
Okay.
Having a really good idea is great, but if you don't have, all of your ducks in a row, all your I's dotted, your T's crossed before you were to approach potential investors, you may not get the result that you're looking for. Again, I don't have quite as much experience on that side of things, because, as far as an investor side, our financing for the, our supplement cake business, we went through the banking end of things, because, as a franchise, you don't have to have that same level of investment outside of that. But you want to make sure that whatever you're doing is in the best interest of you and the business that you're running.
Oh, thank you.
You bet.
Good question, Evan. Good question. I know that a lot of people think, with Shark Tank and Dragon's Den out there, that they are considering getting investors and inventing something. So good question. Any other questions? Okay, if not, thank you very much, Chris. On behalf of the Regina Industry Education Council and Chinook School Division, I'd like to thank you for your presentation today. More and more people are pursuing entrepreneurship, and your experiences with this certainly will help students who may be considering this in the future. It was also interesting to hear how creating a career in a number of areas that bring you joy and satisfaction, your journey, while being able to live in your home community and raise your family, has been something that you've pursued, and we're very thankful that you could share that with us, and we look forward to more information from you in the future. Thanks.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.